We're here to talk about a subject that will at some time in your life affect you. It will in one way or another, and so I'd like to welcome you to the Autism Spectrum. I'm your host, Terry Bowers, and at the table with me is Brent Davis, a resident of Montgomery County. He's lived with autism in his life for 18 years. We'll hear a little about his life, his challenges, fears, and future. Good evening, Mr. Davis. May I call you Brent?
Sure.
Thank you. So, can you please tell us how autism has been in your life for 18 years?
Sure. My son, Taylor, is 18 years old. He was first diagnosed with autism when he was about 1.5 years old. So it probably hasn't been 18 years, but 16.5 years for sure.
Okay, that's pretty young for someone to be diagnosed, isn't it?
Yes, he had a seizure. He has epilepsy as well as autism, and he had his first seizure when he was 1 year old. So it kind of clued us in that there was something going on. So we're probably a little more vigilant to the possibilities of autism than many other parents are.
I see. So can you give us some background about the processes of what you have had to deal with growing up with autism, some of the challenges that you have faced?
Sure. Taylor functions pretty much at about an 18-month to 2-year-old cognitive level. So consequently, most of his life he has not been toilet trained. It has only been recently that he has had success in toilet training. So it's been very much like, from that perspective, like dealing with a baby. Also, Taylor has difficulties with communication. He does not have any speech. He has some recognition of verbal commands, and he has some ability to indicate his wants and desires via cards, but even that is fairly recent. So most of the time living with Taylor has been guessing what he wants and needs and kind of learning his signals and his moods to be able to help him.
Has that affected your family life in any way? Or I'm assuming you were married when you had Taylor. Has that affected your life in some way?
Well, of course it affects every part of your life because you're just the care for someone that is so severely disabled becomes a very, just a part of your everyday existence. In my case, my wife and I were divorced, and I would say one of the major reasons was just the stress of dealing with a special needs child and that process of caring for him.
So how old was Taylor when you divorced then? How many years did you work together in the house with Taylor, co-parenting?
So he was, I don't remember exactly, but he was, I would say, I think 13 or 14 when we divorced. So we worked together, my ex-wife and I, for 13 years together working with Taylor.
And the biggest challenges that you faced as far as his schooling, was he able to go to school?
Yes. So because we identified the autism very early, he was part of early intervention programs. He was part of ABA therapies early on, and he was part of special education classes. He also he was educated in the public schools and also has been in private placements specifically for autism.
Okay, when we come back, we'll ask Brent about the greatest concerns he has for his son and the future of his family. I wonder if you would share some of these same concerns that he has. We'll find out when we return to the Autism Spectrum.
There are many ways of wrapping production cables. Most of them are wrong.
To protect the cable and keep it from tangling, the accepted method in the video industry is the RCA wrap, commonly known as over-under. This is how you do it. Grab the cable for the length where you want to make your first loop. Bring your hands together. Now gently twist so that the cable forms a natural loop. This is over. After your first loop, reach down, palm of your hand away from your body, grab the next bit of cable, and bring your hands together, looping the cable under. Now reach down again and loop the cable over. Continue to alternate between over and under until your cable is fully coiled. If your cable is wrapped properly, you can uncoil the cable quickly with no loops, kinks, or tangles. It takes practice.
Hi, this is the Autism Spectrum. Glad you decided to stay. And if you're just joining us, with us today is Brent Davis, the father of an 18-year-old son who has been diagnosed at a very young age with a group of complex disorders of brain development that is classified as significant. He's nonverbal, and we commonly know this disorder as autism. We're about to ask Brent what his greatest concerns are for the future of his son and the rest of the family. I'm your host, Terry Bowers. Brent, thank you again. You have since remarried?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Well, is this a blended family of yours?
Yes, it is.
Okay. How has your son's disability affected your blended family in any way?
Well, my son, absolutely. My son currently is in a residential school placement, so he does not live with our blended family 100% of the time. However, even though he is in that residential school environment, there's still a lot of demands that are placed upon the family to make sure that his schooling is appropriate and successful, to make sure that his residential component of that schooling is effective, to respond to doctor visits and emergencies and those type of things. We also, of course, make sure that we spend time visiting with him and make him feel part of the family.
Absolutely. So as he's 18, he is an adult then, yes. Does that bring additional challenges?
Sure. Before he was 18, it was very straightforward. I was his father, and I had to make his medical decisions and his educational decisions and such for him, and that was the normal process. Now that he's 18, there's a legal question of guardianship that has to go in to determining whether that I can still make those decisions or whether he is capable of making them himself. And so we have to go through a court process to establish my legal responsibility and ability to do those decisions, to make those decisions.
Even though he's as low functioning as he is, that still has to be determined?
That's correct. The legal process requires doctors to multiple doctors to evaluate him and make sure that he truly needs the guardianship, and also that needs to be then established through the courts that is the right thing to do. They obviously don't want someone taking guardianship for someone that doesn't need it and taking away their rights.
But does not the disorder have a significant impact on the finances of a family? Isn't that another impact of financial burden on a family that's already overstressed?
Yes. I mean, depending upon the family and the situation, and there are programs, government programs available, school programs available, but they really don't cover everything that you want to do to allow a child to be as successful as they can be. So I know in my case, we've paid for private therapies on our own. We've paid for other care and welfare for him on our own. Even though he's in a residential program now, we pay for clothing and food and games and different
The
things.
normal things that you would pay for a
For
child.
a child, absolutely.
But what I was referring to is the additional legal costs that you have that are not common to raising a child.
Well, sure. I mean, certainly the guardianship process that I'm going through now is not something that you would normally go through as a parent, that when the child would turn 18, they would then be an adult and be on their own, and you wouldn't have to incur the legal expense of establishing guardianship for them.
So this brings us to probably one of the most important questions of our meeting here is, Taylor, when he turns 21, he is extremely low functioning. His prospects are employment, from what I understand, are not significant. What do you perceive as his future?
Well, I'm very hopeful that the 21 is a very crucial age because he is currently funded until 21 and is currently worked through the school systems. At age 21, that school system responsibility goes away, and it becomes a responsibility of the Maryland Department of Disabilities. And so it is a whole new system to navigate. It's a whole new set of providers to navigate. My hope is that we will be able to establish him into that system so that he will be able to remain in some type of group living arrangement like he is now, and some type of supported job or work type situation.
So are there many opportunities? I imagine in this kind of a county there would be lots of opportunities for residential placements for disabled individuals such as your son. Do you find that you have much to choose from?
I don't think in any part of the country you have a lot of choice in this regard. Montgomery County, not to be accepted from that. There are definitely organizations in Montgomery County that do support autistic adults in work and in living, but the number of cases of autism is growing rapidly in the country, and the services that are available in no way are equal to the growing numbers of autistic people that need help.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank Brent Davis for joining us and speaking so candidly about his son and the future of his family. I ask that you remember what Gandhi once said, that the measure of a country's greatness should be based on how well it cares for the most vulnerable of the population. I believe we are a community and that we can and should care deeply for those who cannot care for themselves. I'm your host, Terry Bowers. I hope we will see you again soon at the next episode of the Autism Spectrum.